Many people believe that happiness is something to be found in others, in relationships, in recognition, in the noise of the outside world. But let me ask you, what happens when all of that disappears, when you sit in silence and it is only you and your own mind? If, in that moment, you feel restless, empty, or incomplete, then it is not the world that must change, but the way you relate to yourself. To be happy alone is not a weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because when you can find joy in your own presence, then no one and nothing outside of you can ever take that joy away. Many people believe that happiness is something they must seek outside themselves. They chase after relationships, possessions, achievements, or recognition, hoping that these external elements will provide the lasting fulfillment they are searching for. And indeed, for a short while, these things may bring comfort. They may create moments of joy, moments of excitement. But when the excitement fades, when the people leave, or when achievements are no longer new, many find themselves standing in front of a mirror, realizing that the happiness they thought was permanent was only temporary. Now ask yourself this: what happens when everything becomes quiet? When there are no celebrations, no social gatherings, no phone calls, and no one beside you to distract you from yourself? For some, this silence feels uncomfortable. They begin to experience loneliness, emptiness, even fear. But this discomfort does not come from being alone. It comes from not knowing how to be with themselves. Loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of connection with your own self. Imagine a person sitting in a crowded room. There is laughter, there are conversations, there is life all around, and yet, inside, this person feels invisible, disconnected, lost. How is it possible to feel lonely while surrounded by others? The answer is simply because true connection does not start with others, it starts with yourself. To be happy alone is to discover a deeper form of freedom. It means that your joy is no longer dependent on someone's presence or someone's approval. It means that you no longer feel incomplete when the world is silent. It is in those moments of solitude that you begin to uncover who you truly are beneath the layers of expectation, noise, and roles that society has placed upon you. But how do you arrive at such a state? How do you transform solitude into a source of happiness rather than suffering? The first step is awareness. Sit with yourself without distraction. No phone, no television, no endless scrolling. Just you. Notice the thoughts that arise. Notice the emotions that surface. At first, it may feel uncomfortable. Restlessness might appear. Memories, regrets, or fears might emerge. But instead of running away from them, allow them to be there. Observe them without judgment. This simple practice is like meeting yourself for the very first time. When you are with yourself long enough, you begin to realize something powerful. You are not your thoughts. You are not your fears. You are not the stories you tell yourself. Behind all of that noise, there is a presence, an awareness, a stillness that has always been there. That stillness is your true companion. It does not leave you when people leave. It does not abandon you when life changes. It is always there, waiting for you to notice it. Think of a tree standing alone in the middle of a field. From the outside, it may look solitary, even isolated, but the tree is not lonely. Its roots go deep into the earth, connecting it with life, with nourishment, with stability. In the same way, when you are rooted within yourself, you no longer fear being alone. You understand that solitude is not emptiness, it is space. Space to breathe, space to grow, space to strengthen your roots. Happiness alone comes when you learn to enjoy your own company the same way you enjoy the company of a close friend. You begin to do small things that nurture you, like reading, reflecting, walking in nature, or simply sitting quietly. And in these moments, you discover that joy does not always require noise, does not always require company, does not always require recognition. Sometimes, the purest joy comes in silence, in presence, in simply being. Ask yourself, If you cannot find peace when you are alone, how will you ever find peace with others? If you cannot enjoy your own company, how will you truly enjoy the company of someone else? The ability to be happy alone is not a rejection of others. It is the foundation of healthy connections. Because when you no longer depend on others to fill a void within you, you can approach relationships not from need, but from wholeness. To be content in solitude is to carry a secret strength. It is to know that even if the world changes, even if people come and go, you will not collapse, because your center is within you. You are no longer searching for happiness like a thirsty traveler searching for water in the desert. Instead, you have found the spring within, and it will never run dry. One of the most important realizations you can have on the journey of being happy alone is understanding the difference between solitude and isolation. Many people confuse the two. Isolation is when you close yourself off from the world because of fear, bitterness, or pain. It is a form of withdrawal, a shield against disappointment or rejection. But solitude is something very different. Solitude is a conscious choice. It is when you turn inward, not out of fear, but out of strength. It is when you choose to spend time with yourself in order to know yourself, in order to nurture the inner space where clarity and peace reside. Think about this carefully. When you avoid being alone because you fear what you might feel, you are already trapped by those feelings. But when you choose to sit with yourself, when you embrace solitude, you begin to transform fear into understanding, restlessness into calm, emptiness into presence. This is not something anyone else can give you. It is a gift that only you can give to yourself. The human mind is constantly searching for stimulation. We seek noise, activity, company, distractions. Without them, many people feel uneasy. But why? It is because silence confronts us with our own thoughts, and very often, we are not comfortable with what we hear inside. Instead of escaping that inner dialogue, solitude invites us to listen to it, to understand it, and to move beyond it. Imagine water in a glass that has been shaken. The particles swirl around, making the water cloudy. This is what your mind feels like when you are constantly busy, constantly surrounded by distractions, constantly pulled in different directions. But if you place the glass down and leave it untouched, slowly the particles begin to settle. The water becomes clear again. Solitude is that stillness. It allows the mind to settle. It allows clarity to return. And in that clarity, happiness is no longer something you chase. It arises naturally from within. When you learn to enjoy solitude, you discover the richness of your own inner world. You realize that there is a well of creativity, wisdom, and peace within you that you may have ignored for years. In quiet moments, ideas surface that would have been drowned out by noise. Insights appear that could not be seen in the rush of daily life. And more importantly, you realize that happiness does not come from constant doing, but from being fully present with yourself. Consider the way a seed grows. Before it breaks the surface of the soil, before anyone can see it, it spends time in darkness, in stillness, in silence. It draws strength, it develops roots, it prepares itself for growth. If the seed feared being buried alone, it would never become a tree. In the same way, your time in solitude is not a punishment. It is preparation. It is in that quiet space that you develop the inner roots of resilience, self-knowledge, and peace. Many people run from solitude because they think it means being cut off from the world. But when you understand its true nature, you realize solitude does not separate you from life. On the contrary, it deepens your connection to life. It teaches you to appreciate the simple things you might otherwise overlook. The warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of the wind moving through the trees, the rhythm of your own breathing. These small moments reveal the abundance that is always present, but often hidden by the constant noise of the outside world. Ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence without reaching for something to fill the space? When was the last time you observed your surroundings without distraction, without needing to record, post, or share the experience with anyone. If you can learn to sit with life as it is, without constantly seeking to change it or escape it, you begin to uncover a happiness that is steady, reliable, unshaken by circumstance. Solitude also teaches you self-sufficiency of the heart. It reminds you that you are whole, that you are not lacking, that you do not need another person to validate your worth or confirm your happiness. When you reach this state, relationships become healthier because you no longer approach them with desperation or need. You no longer expect someone else to complete you. Instead, you come to them as a complete being, and you share happiness rather than demand it. This is why solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is born from a sense of lack, from believing that something is missing. Solitude, when embraced, reveals that nothing essential is missing. Everything you need for joy, peace, and fulfillment has always been within you. The more you learn to enjoy your own company, the more you discover that the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation upon which all other relationships are built. To be happy alone requires a shift in perspective about how you see yourself and how you see life. Most of the suffering that arises in solitude does not come from the absence of others, but from the stories the mind tells about that absence. You may hear thoughts like, "I am alone, so I must be unloved. I am alone, so I must be incomplete. I am alone, so something is wrong with me." These are not truths. These are interpretations, conditioned beliefs planted into the mind over time. If you want to be happy alone, you must begin by questioning these stories. Ask yourself, are they real? Or are they simply thoughts that you have repeated so often that they now feel like reality? When you let go of the need to define yourself through others, you begin to meet yourself as you truly are. You start to recognize your own value, not because someone else confirms it, but because you experience it directly. You realize that happiness is not something that arrives from the outside. It grows from the inside. It grows when you accept yourself fully, when you treat yourself with compassion, and when you allow yourself to exist without constantly comparing your life to anyone else's. Comparison is one of the greatest thieves of joy. When you are alone, the mind often looks outward, measuring your life against the lives of others. You might see people surrounded by friends, by family, by partners, and you begin to think that happiness belongs only to them. But this is an illusion. Having people around does not guarantee happiness, just as being alone does not guarantee loneliness. What matters is not the number of people in your life, but the quality of the relationship you have with yourself. Consider the way the moon shines in the night sky. It is alone, surrounded by darkness, yet its presence lights up the entire sky. It does not complain about being without company. It simply reflects its own light, and in doing so, it transforms the darkness into something beautiful. In the same way, when you begin to shine from within, solitude no longer feels heavy. It becomes radiant. It becomes peaceful. It becomes enough. Learning to be happy alone is also about creating harmony between your inner and outer worlds. If your inner world is filled with unrest, doubt, and negativity, then no matter how much you seek outside of yourself, you will not find peace. But if your inner world is calm, balanced, and centered, then even in the absence of company, you will feel whole. This harmony is cultivated through practices that bring you into presence: meditation, breathing, mindful movement, journaling, or simply sitting in awareness of the moment as it is. When you give yourself permission to embrace solitude, you start to notice that happiness comes in very subtle forms. It may come in the quiet joy of waking up without rush. It may come in the calm rhythm of your footsteps as you walk alone. It may come in the taste of a meal that you prepare for yourself with care. These small, ordinary moments reveal an extraordinary truth: happiness does not need grand conditions. It can be found in simplicity, in awareness, in the acceptance of life as it unfolds. Ask yourself, do you believe that happiness requires someone else to provide it for you? Or are you willing to see that happiness has always been within your reach, waiting for you to stop searching outside and begin noticing inside? When you no longer fear being alone, you realize that solitude is not a limitation. It is an opportunity to meet yourself, to strengthen yourself, and to experience life in its purest form, without distraction, without masks, without need. When you begin to understand how to be happy alone, a new form of strength begins to grow inside you. It is the strength of independence, not just in action, but in spirit. Independence does not mean you reject others or live without connection. It means you no longer depend on others for your sense of worth, your sense of peace, or your sense of joy. You are no longer at the mercy of changing circumstances or the shifting opinions of people around you. This inner independence is what transforms solitude into empowerment. Most people spend their lives trying to hold on to things that cannot be held. They cling to relationships, to possessions, to achievements, believing that without them, they will lose their identity and their happiness. But everything outside of you is temporary. People change, circumstances change, life changes. If your happiness is built on what is temporary, then your happiness will always be fragile. But when your happiness is built on something within you, something that cannot be taken away, then you carry a stability that no storm can shake. Think of a mountain standing tall in the midst of wind, rain, and storm. It does not resist the weather. It does not try to control it, and yet it remains unmoved, deeply rooted. This is the strength you develop when you learn to be happy alone. You become rooted in yourself. You may experience challenges, you may encounter loss, but your center remains steady. That steadiness is not given to you by the outside world. It is cultivated within you through solitude, through self-understanding, through acceptance. Happiness alone is also about realizing that you are already whole. The belief that you are incomplete without someone else is one of the most powerful illusions the mind creates. It leads to constant searching, constant longing, constant dissatisfaction. But when you look deeply, you begin to see that nothing is missing. You have thoughts, you have emotions, you have awareness, you have life moving through you in every breath. To recognize the fullness of your own existence is to free yourself from the illusion of incompleteness. In solitude, you begin to rediscover the simple truth that life itself is enough. You notice the beauty of ordinary moments that are so easily overlooked. You hear the rhythm of your own breathing and realize that it is a gift. You feel the warmth of the sun, the coolness of the wind, and you realize that these small experiences are moments of connection with life itself. When you are present with them, you do not need anything more to feel content. This is the kind of happiness that solitude reveals. Another strength that solitude brings is clarity. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, it is difficult to hear your own inner voice. You become influenced by the expectations of others, by society's demands, by the endless comparison with those around you. But when you step into solitude, you create the space to hear yourself clearly. You begin to distinguish what you truly value, what you truly desire, and what path feels authentic to you. This clarity cannot be given by others. It can only emerge when you spend time with yourself, away from distractions. Ask yourself, how much of your life is shaped by your own choices, and how much is shaped by the pressure to fit in with others? If you never allow yourself to be alone, you may never truly know. But in solitude, you begin to peel away these layers to see what is genuine and what is borrowed. This self-discovery is not always comfortable, but it is essential. Because only when you know yourself can you build a life that reflects who you really are, rather than a life built to please others. When you embrace solitude as a teacher, you also begin to discover resilience. You learn that you can face discomfort without running away. You learn that silence is not empty, but full of possibilities. You learn that happiness is not fragile, but enduring when it comes from within. This resilience stays with you even when life becomes challenging. It becomes a silent companion, reminding you that no matter what happens around you, you have the ability to remain at peace inside yourself. So in the end, to be happy alone is not about rejecting the world, nor is it about closing your heart to others. It is about discovering that your true source of happiness has always been within you. When you embrace solitude, you find clarity. When you sit with yourself, you discover strength. When you stop searching outside, you begin to recognize the fullness already inside. Happiness alone is not emptiness, it is freedom. It is the freedom to enjoy your own company, the freedom to meet others without need or fear, and the freedom to live life with a steady heart no matter what changes around you. When you can carry this happiness within you, then solitude is no longer something to escape. It becomes your foundation, and from that foundation, everything else in life, connection, love, purpose, grows with greater authenticity and depth.